Here we go to the border crisis now. This is something that's really interesting that people are not talking about. People are not talking about this because, A, it's wildly unpopular if you look at the left's policy on illegal immigration, okay? On immigration, period. And Donald Trump actually gained a significant amount of ground with Latino Americans, Latinx. By the way, I asked my house cleaning lady. I said, Latino? She goes, Latina, yeah. I said, Latinx? I don't know.
What do you say?
None of them. Yeah. The only people who want to be referred to as Latinx are white women who probably have a little bit of, I don't know, Cherokee in them or something, or Aztec. And they're like, I'm Latinx. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're wearing a tube top in Bath and Body Works and throwing haymakers, okay? You are not Latinx.
If she pulled out a blade, Latinx.
There you go.
Okay. If she cuts you. Mm-hmm.
This is something, it's wildly unpopular with basically everybody outside of the far, far left. Let's get to some of the numbers and results here as to what's happening at the border. And it really is a genuine crisis right now. Jen Psaki, just this last week or over the weekend, defended Biden's immigration policies in a very smug, soulless, ginger way. Here you go.
I know you don't want our answer to him, but the former president just released a statement saying that the Biden administration was acting immediately to end the border nightmare that they have unleashed on our nation.
Former President Trump?
Yes.
We don't take our advice or counsel from former President Trump on immigration policy, which was not only inhumane, but ineffective over the last 4 years. We're going to chart our own path forward, and that includes treating children with humanity and respect and ensuring they're safe when they cross our borders.
Mm-hmm. Who built the cages, Joe?
Wow.
Who built the cages, Chucky? Here's the thing. Joe Biden built the cages, so he wants to get his money worth, and now they have more kids in cages than him. Why? Because Joe Biden's policies are designed to accommodate, I would say catch and release, so they're not even really catching, are designed to accommodate illegal immigrants, whereas, of course, the Trump policies were designed to protect American borders and basically de-incentivize people.
Yeah, one of the criticisms of the Trump administration's immigration policy has never been that they weren't effective. It's always been that they were too stringent.
That they were too effective.
That you were building a wall, and we can't have walls in our country, and you're sending too many people home, and you're trying to... No one has ever had the balls to say they were ineffective.
Right. No one has ever said that they were ineffective.
And unbelievable.
And I've got some numbers for under Donald Trump. Illegal border crossings decreased to a record low of 832 a day the entire year of 2017. Under Biden, it's increased to, okay, take a guess. Take a guess. Don't look at the overlay. So 830 something, what is it? 832 a day under Trump. Okay. So you would think that they wouldn't be so smug if the numbers are close.
Right.
Well, if he's ineffective.
Give or take a few hundred even.
Yeah.
So 832 a day in 2017.
It can't be much more.
And by the way, that's entirely because of Donald Trump staring them down. They were, don't mess around with him. He mean what he say. He mean what he say. Don't climb the wall. He mean what he say. So 832 versus how many do you think now? Biden hasn't been in that long. How many do you think? Take a guess.
On the high side, 1,200.
Yeah. 1,300?
6,000. 6,000 a day.
A day?
A day.
That's Wilt Chamberlain number.
Not even he could do that in a day.
Well, I think you're wrong.
And by the way, I know we're all acting shocked.
Yeah.
And people say, "Oh, it's because you're right wing. What's another 6,000 a day?" Well, keep in mind that back in 2019, Obama's former Department of Homeland Security, the Secretary Jeh Johnson. I just had to make sure.
What?
Jeh Johnson. J-E-H. Jeh Johnson had this reaction to the hypothetical. If we might even reach 1,000 border crossings a day.
On Tuesday, there were 4,000 apprehensions. I know that 1,000 overwhelms the system. I cannot begin to imagine what 4,000 a day looks like. So we are truly in a crisis.
Well, you don't need to imagine anymore. You can just get your binoculars and watch some coyotes bring them on over. By the way, comment. It's the best thing you can do. Comment on what you think here. 6,000 a day, if that number surprised you. What were you betting? And we'll be taking your chats on Mug Club a little bit
6,000? That's how many people leave Detroit today.
Yes.
It's those big numbers.
Well, they're just migrating.
Yes. Also, it's the price of an average home in Detroit.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
6,000. Yeah,
Correspond.
6,000. Buys you a Mick mansion, and it's just a bunch of people who call themselves Mick who live in your mansion and have squatters rights, and you can't get out.
That's true.
You're like, you're not Irish. Yeah, I did that for the paperwork. Even at the border, by the way, people. Here's this Arizona sheriff.
McDonald's. Sorry.
Here's this Arizona sheriff talking about these are the people who have to deal with it. Working class Americans, people you don't care about, dealing with the issue at the border.
When President Biden rescinded the emergency order on the southwest border, it stopped resources and stopped construction on our border. As a result of that, one area where the fence is not complete, we get 5 or 6 groups a day coming across there. In December, it was over 2,500 illegal entries, let me say, to include over 500 pounds of illicit drugs. I just got the charts there today. It's skyrocketing back to numbers we saw in 2019. The reason we have MPP and these other programs President Trump put in place was because of 2019 caravan and surges. It worked. It's not working now.
Well, that would sound, it wouldn't matter if it was just one guy, but the statistics are overwhelming.
Well, at least we get $1,400 checks.
Yes.
So,
by the way, some of those people, depending on when they get in from the border.
Oh, come on.
You're getting 500 pounds of coke, and we're getting $1,400.
It doesn't seem equal.
No, work on that.
I don't know the street value, but I'm assuming it's more.
Yes.
Yeah, probably higher.
That's what I assume. Here's the thing. Let's go through the policy. So we know, 832 versus 6,000 a day, right? That's irrefutable. Wow. We know that right now they're struggling with a crisis. We know that Texas has had to send the National Guard down to the border. We know that hundreds of them have tested positive for COVID and gone back into the population, which, by the way, that doesn't really bother me that much. It's not so much that people might get a rough cold from illegal immigrants. It's that they may lose their job or get violently harmed because of the criminal rates that we see from people who are here illegally. Now you're saying, hold on a second. I watched MSNBC and they say that immigrants commit crime at a lower rate than native borns. Nope, that's not true. So Trump's policies, let me just rattle off what they were. And these led to the decrease dramatically. No one refuted them. No one argued that. They just would argue that it was cruel.
Other than Psaki.
Right.
So.
No, she just said we don't take advice from him.
She said they were ineffective. She said his policy.
Well, see, Gerald, I got to fact check you. She said they were ineffective because she wants more illegal immigration. Well, that's why she won't take his advice. They are ineffective if your goal is to go from 832 illegal crossings to 6,000. There's no way Donald Trump's policies are ever going to get you to those numbers.
It's terrible policy, right?
Rookie numbers.
Don't attribute motive. That's not what we do here. So, there were limitations under Donald Trump. Limitations are those who qualified for asylum, right? There was greater scrutiny. It was placed on applicants who traveled through more than one country to get to the border, but only sought asylum in the United States. This was, for example, like the Honduran, the El Salvadorian. Is that what it's called? El Salvadorian.
Also known as Asylum Law International.
Right, Asylum Law International. But now asylum just means asylum used to be, right, you're being persecuted by a government. For example, let's say Christians in Malaysia or a place like that, right? There's a record number of burning churches. We need to leave. We say, okay, a government has a policy, a systematic way of discriminating against you. You are seeking asylum to be safe. With Mexico and Honduras, they just go, I'm seeking asylum. Oh, really? What is it? My country is shit. It's not very good. My country is not very good, and your country is very nice. I would prefer to be in the place that's very nice.
Yeah. Well, and you also
please let me in.
You also have to go to the nearest country where you are not going to be persecuted, which is not, by the way, the United States if you're in Honduras.
Right. They had a zero-tolerance policy under Donald Trump. Now, what did that mean? Anyone who crossed the border illegally, they were referred for criminal prosecution as opposed to Obama's catch-and-release policy. Lowering the refugee admission ceiling from 110,000 to 50,000, right? From Obama, 110,000 to 50,000. Again, all these sources are available at loudwithcutter.com. Ending the temporary protected status granted to illegals from El Salvador, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Sudan, or as some people refer to them, shithole countries, which we would never say.
No.
Sudan is not. It's a wonderful country, burgeoning technology and human rights. In contrast, Biden's have included expanding DACA, ending the cap on daily asylum requests, ending prosecution of adults illegally crossing with children, which, by the way, is a problem for those children. They basically get sold into indentured servitude, if we're talking about it, and ceasing border wall construction. So you can look at those direct changes and see, now I understand how it goes from 832 illegal crossings a day, which is 832 too much, to 6,000. 6,000 a day. That's a hell of a voting base if you give them all amnesty and a citizenship.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, the ending prosecution, basically all you have to do is go kidnap a kid and cross the border.
Yes, that happens all the time.
Exactly. That was the whole reason for separating, so that you could figure out which kids were actually with parents and which kids were with, I don't know, people that had kidnapped them.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? Well, listen, they'll make sure. They'll have policies in place once they get here to make sure that no one's done that, like proper identification.
Okay. No.
Think about all of this one, even if it's unintentionally. it will create a super vortex of sex trafficking and kidnapped children and underground slavery, not to mention reduce wages, not to mention, of course, harm the American worker. But you aren't looking out for Mexican children if you are not keeping tabs on who is signing the guest book on the way into this country. Yeah. Would you run a daycare and not have any identification, not have any proof that these are the kids' parents or their legal guardians?
Yeah.
Would you just say, well, just come on in, it's a revolving door like Will Ferrell and Elf sticking his gum on the subway? Seriously, you wouldn't do it anywhere else. But when we talk about the border, it's, well, it would be cruel. It would be cruel to make sure that these are parents of the children.
Yeah.
Well, if your daycare is for sex trafficking, you wouldn't mind.
Well, that's why, the sex traffic R Us daycare is a problem.
Well, I think, they try.
I still don't know how they maintain 501c3 status.
It really is strange that they're just allowed to be there.
Revoke their tax-exempt status. Please.
I don't think NAMBLA daycare is a good idea for the record.
Just for the record.
They cannot be sponsors at all.
No.
Reject the money. Send the check.
I've already told them that they need to clean up their act first. Of course, the media has said that Donald Trump and his policies, what were they? The policies that led to 832, a decrease to 832 crossings a day versus right now 6,000. These policies, which just made sure that we knew who was coming into our country, we just made sure that we knew that parents were with their kids, that people weren't being kidnapped, that would reduce sex trafficking. Policies were racist.
The southern border wall is a racist proxy for Trump's racist immigration policies.
Mexico sends its rapists and its murderers, but there is no evidence that Mexico is sending.
No, there's not. And so that right there was a huge, bigoted, racist insult to all immigrants and all Latinos here in this country.
You made an assumption.
Trump wanted $5 billion for a pointless border wall to enforce his racist immigration policies, but he was too incompetent to figure out how to get it.
It's part of his strategy to win a second term, along with riling up his base with his near constant racist rhetoric about immigrants.
Okay, so don't you just love the racism of the left where he said they're rapists, they're criminals who are coming over. They're not always sending their best. He said this was an insult to all Latino and Mexican American immigrants. You just assume that they're all rapists. I don't assume that everyone running a taco truck is MS-13.
Right.
No. Just because their faces are tattooed with 13 doesn't mean you should jump to conclusions.
I have no idea. I've seen white people with those face tattoos, and I just thought it was a style thing. They're wearing tattoos now, or they killed a guy, but who am I to judge?
Hey, if you didn't kill him on our soil, I don't mind.
I don't care.
Buy tacos for people that don't have tattoos.
They're going to extradite him to Honduras for crying out loud. They have 401ks for murder over there.
Well, the problem is some of them were rapists and some of them were murderers. That's fact.
And there would be no way to know.
Yes,
there would be no way to know.
In the context of what he was talking about, mentioning MS-13 prior to that should have given you some kind of an understanding of what he was saying. Yeah. Guys, criminals are coming over. There may be some fantastic people trying to get over.
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to skip to a couple of sources here down to overlay P. So you're absolutely right. Illegal immigrants, first off, they cost taxpayers $116 billion per year.
Wow.
Okay? And this is important to know because they say, oh, look, you're going to spend billions on a border wall. Okay, look, just taking the number from 6,000 down to 832, you look at how much money it saves the taxpayer in the long term. Not to mention, it's morally reprehensible to not actually have a nation of people. And of course, high immigration decreases wages for Americans on average. But talking about the crime, illegal immigrants, this is something that they use a lot on the left. They say, oh, actually, immigrants commit crime at a lower rate than natural-born, than nationalized citizen. Well, that's not true. First off, that number includes only legal immigrants. So that number includes Swedish immigrants, German immigrants, Indian immigrants, Pakistani immigrants, as well as legal Mexican immigrants, legal South American immigrants, people like Smooth Manny, whose family came in from Colombia and they worked skilled jobs. That includes those people who, of course, are on the books, they pay taxes, so they're more likely to be law-abiding citizens. It changes, however, when you look at illegal immigrants, which is very hard to quantify because typically they don't answer the census. Knock, knock, no one's home. That's how it often goes. So in 2014, a DOJ report found that nearly half of all criminal investigations initiated by federal prosecutors were filed in courts near the southern border. 64% of all federal arrests were of non-citizens, according to the Bureau of Justice statistics. Wow. And then there's one statistic if you just look at specifically Mexican immigrants, because they have the highest portion of illegal immigrants in the United States, and it's hard to know which ones are legal versus which ones are illegal, which I think is a gross disservice to legal Mexican immigrants. That's the racism of soft expectations. Mexican immigrants commit between 3.5 and 5 times as many crimes as the native population. So it's a lie. Don't let them sell it to you. Don't believe it for a second that actually crime is not a problem. First off, it's a huge problem statistically based on the numbers that we already have. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you don't have a secured border, if you don't have a way to know who's coming into the country or leaving the country, that of course these are people who are more likely to try and live under the radar of the law, thus not obey the law. All right, it's over, it's done. Illegal immigrants, they commit more crime, they put you at risk, and of course they reduced your wages. But the media just said, well, Donald Trump's a racist, and you contrast that, of course, with how they've portrayed Biden's immigration policy.
Yeah, executive action from President Biden.
Shut up, Gerald!
One of the, I think, inarguably, one of the most unconscionable things the Trump presidency did and left in its wake.
With the first action today, we're going to work to undo the moral and national shame of the previous administration that literally, not figuratively, ripped children from the arms of their families, their mothers and fathers at the border.
You know, this is all part of President Biden's commitment to restore humanity and humane values to our immigration policy.
The new Biden administration is proposing an 8-year pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants.
Compared to the last 4 years, this is great. Like, this is a miracle.
First off, why are we interviewing a guy with a chin strap beard at a skate park?
Because he was going to say what they wanted.
They're not sending their best, folks. Oh, I beg to differ. Look at this man in a hoodie with a chin strap beard at the skate park. I smoke weed, yo.
I got a man bun. It's a miracle.
They took Mexican Chaz Bono with horn-rimmed glasses. They're like, look, don't you want your country? Come on.
I just want to say I don't like Swedes.
I don't like Swedes either. They cheap shot you in hockey.
Because you were saying how they're not criminals, but I've been beaten by a pack of Swedes.
Oh, a pack? Don't
pack
so. They don't travel in packs.
They do. No, they do. They travel in packs.
They're animals.
As opposed to the Norwegians, they're when grouped, they're schools.
Norwegians will beat you good too.
This is something that a lot of people don't talk about, right? They assume that, or they did assume until this election that, well, these policies and curbing illegal immigration and saying they're not bringing their best and their brightest, that we need to reduce crime coming from south of the border. Everyone assumed that, of course, that would kill the Republican Party with Latinos forever. But Donald Trump's policies, this surprised me, they were actually supported by 50%.
Wow.
Half of legal Latino Americans. Half. And then his approval rating actually was 26% of all non-white voters, which is a record high.
Yeah.
For any Republican, 26% among all non-white voters. He got more of a percentage of black voters and Latino voters. There were some areas in Florida where it went up like 20 points over the last election. And granted, that's because there are a lot of Cuban Americans who've experienced socialism and they say, not so fast. But even Mexican, I think a big part of this too is, again, unlike the left who see all Latino Americans, they see them as brown people. And this is the problem. They see them as a monolith of brown people. A lot of Latino Americans, the ones at least that I spend time with, the ones who I meet and we talk with on a regular basis, including, by the way, ones who maybe don't even speak English that well. You go to Quick Trip, never racetrack. You go to Quick Trip, at the end of the day, they're going and picking up that 32 ounce. At the end of the day, just going, hey, Bud Ice, huh? See, they're proud Americans. They go to their truck, they have an American flag often. They're wearing American flag handkerchiefs. There are a lot of Latino Americans who see themselves as Americans, as hardworking, tax-paying Americans. And so why would they not want to keep America, the country for their children and future generations, free? That's why you see, and safe, that's why you see 50% support. And no one talks about it because it's brown people.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.